So you've actually already seen one solution to this problem, but we just want to show you that there are multiple approaches to the same problem. So again, we're on this question of how many people across the world are actively using their phones at any given moment. So the first thing I wanted to figure out was how many smartphone users there are worldwide. And so I just started Googling and I found Statista.com. I didn't know if this was a reputable website, so I did a little Googling about it in particular and found, yeah, it looks like it's a pretty legit website. Gathers a lot of information and statistics that other organizations rely on, so I trusted it. And I went with the 2018 year because that's when I was working on this, although it looks like in 2019 it's predicted to be higher. So depending on what year you're at, you'll want to pick the one that applies to you. But I'm going to go with the 2018 number. So that's telling me that there are 2.53 billion smartphone users out there. So more research. I thought it would be important to know how many people there were in the world. So Wikipedia isn't a great research tool. You've probably talked about this in school before, but it's perfectly good for finding things like the world population. It's going to have pretty updated pages. These pages are often, these bigger, more popular pages are well protected and well researched, and they show where their statistics come from as well. And after some other Googling, I figured there was lots of places telling me that it's 7.7 billion people, so I trusted that number. The last thing I needed to research was how much time people spend on their phones. And there's a lot of articles about this, so I just sort of started going through them and looking again for reputable sources, things like newspapers and legitimate news organizations. Generally, the bigger the better, right? But something like this article I found here, how much time people spend on their phone in 2017, they had done sort of a really nice breakdown of multiple sources to try to get this number, and they found that it was about 4 hours. The simple answer, they say, is over 4 hours a day, and this was a really well-written article where they showed all their different sources. So, I really trusted this number here, and that was for U.S., people in the U.S. But then there's this article from the Economic Times saying that Indians are spending about 3 hours per day, and another article from CNBC that said Chinese consumers are spending about 2.5 hours per day on their mobile devices. So we sort of have a range, and what I decided to do was, well, we'll get to my assumptions in, just in a second here. So after getting a range of values like that, you have to make an assumption. Again, you could spend more time researching, and maybe there's some academic papers out there. That's overkill for this type of problem and what we were asked to do. So I'm going to assume average 3 hours per day smartphone usage. And, that's just going sort of in the middle of that range of numbers for some big countries that we saw. Another assumption, which we mentioned in an earlier video, was that I'm assuming that the population, or the smartphones specifically, are spread evenly around the world, and they aren't concentrated in one particular country. Because we're talking about one given moment in time, how many people are looking at their phone. So, I'm sort of assuming that the smartphones are all over, and we're not thinking that, well, there might be some moments when it's peak cell phone usage in the United States when there's more than other times. I'm just saying they're spread evenly, and that at any given moment you'll have about the same number of people looking at their smartphone. And I think those are all the assumptions I need for now. And now here I am, I'm ready to go for my calculations. So to start, what I decided to do was just calculate what are the odds of one person being on a phone. So to do that, I decided, well, let's figure out the odds of someone having a phone. So that's number of phones over total population times hours on phone over the hours in a day. So that'll tell me, what your odds are of having a phone, and then what the odds of you being on the phone are. So that's the percentage of, sorry, the number of phones I researched was 2.53 billion. And in the world, I found there were 7.7 billion people. And then I'm multiplying that by 3 hours per day over the 24 hours in a day. And that's going to give me the percentage chance that any given person all over the world is looking at their phone. And when I do that, I get 0.041 or 4.1%. So now what I want to do is I just want to apply that to people all around the world. So for 7.7 billion people, I'm going to apply that percentage of 4.1%. And that gives me 0.3157 billion. That's how many people are looking at their phone at a given moment. Now, it's not generally good practice to answer as some decimal billion. Let's answer in the millions instead. And so if you're not super comfortable converting between millions and billions, there's an easy way to do it if you are, but the longer way is just to write this out. So I have 0 in the billionth place, and then 315 in the hundreds and millions places, and then 700,000, and finish off with the rest of the zeros. So that's the same as 316 million people. And so that's my answer when I do this problem. I find that at any given moment on Earth, there's 316 million people looking at their phone, which is pretty interesting, kind of crazy, right?